Good morning. I'd like to really thank for the invite to come and share my thoughts on discernment. Um, I've kind of split it out between week one and week two and just going to cover the rules and how I deal with discernment daily. When I first heard that song, I was at a retreat, an online retreat. And the subject was not of discernment, but when I heard that song, I thought of discernment. That as we move through our lives, we want God to hold on to us. And we're not always asking Him to because He does it anyway. I just felt that that song was a tribute to asking God to hold on to me and to guide me. In life, we constantly make choices, both big and small. Smaller choices might be what going to a movie or what's for dinner. Big choices may be to get married or take a new job. As we make choices, we often take time to step back and think about our choices, the pros and cons, especially when it comes to long-term consequences. When making decisions, it is important to recognize that God has an opinion too. Saint Ignatius of Loyola began to learn about discernment of the spirits when he was convalescing from a serious injury. He noticed the movement from within and he imagined his future. He believed that the interior movement was caused by the good spirit and the evil spirit. By the grace of God, we are meant to recognize the influencing powers by evaluating those motions which are good so that we might let them give direction in our life, and those which are bad so that we might reject them. So the goal is to take what is good and reject the bad. Discernment is a gift from God. It's about reading the movements from within and from within to make good decisions, seeing, listening, and following God's lead, being able to separate what is important from what is irrelevant. Feelings. Feelings is a very important element within discernment. Ignoring feelings is costly. You lose your ability to hear God speak from within the movement. When we experience negative feelings, we might be tempted to focus on the action or the person who prompted those emotions. That is a big temptation. To discern, you must recognize and address your feelings and admit that they come from within. Addressing feelings, we see more honestly what our desires are, what drives us, and what we are attached to, what standards we are following when we desire it, and whether our choices follows God's choices. So if you look at positive feelings and negative feelings, when we make decisions, our feelings is a part of that. So we have to always, when we start discerning, understand what's going on inside. The first week rules cover good versus evil. Discernment is the way to understand God's will or desire for us in our lives. When I was, right now, I'm retired now. I've been retired for about 7 years. Well, when I was working at, I worked at the Department of USDA, and I was a program manager. And I had recently been promoted to that position as program manager. And my boss called me into the office and he said to me, he said, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to contact this person, tell them to do this. And then, he was kind of explaining to me what's next. So I contacted the person. The person fired back a very, very angry and ugly email to me, telling me that that was my job to do. So, the reaction to me, I'm going to fire one back right back at her. And it went back and forth, and the boss was CC'd on those emails. So he's reading this war of the words. So I decided, I said, you know what, I'm going to take a walk. So I went and I took a walk. And when I came back, it was an email in my mailbox from my boss. And he said, okay, I want to see the two of y'all at 1 o'clock in my office. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, you get ready to get it. Because I know what the boss told me to do. And you're not following. And, one of the things that was eating at me is like, well, what problem does she have with me? She just, why don't she like me? Is it because I just got the position? Is it because she think I don't deserve it? So that's the evil spirit nudging me and nudging me and nudging me. So I said, okay. So I decided to go get something from the vending machine. Guess who was there? So she said to me, she said, well, Pam, I think we got things off track. I can do what you asked me to do. It's not a problem, And I'm listening. I'm thinking, you understand. You're going to get a talk to at that meeting because Because what she was asked to do, they normally do it for everybody. So she was particularly not going to do it for me. So I listened to her and so forth. And then she said, why don't we just put this behind us and we just go on and I'll do the document and, it's okay. And I thought about it and I said, okay. And she said, well, can I email the boss and let him know we done talked and everything's okay? And my mind thought, okay. And see, I share that example because when I did my walk, I had discerned and calmed down, okay? So I was able, when I met her, to not take it to the next level because some people would have taken it to the next level, So that was a discernment and example for me how good and evil worked that event. So choosing between good and evil. When you sin, choose evil rather than God, the evil spirit wants to keep you there at any means possible. It'll tell you, ooh, that was good. Didn't you have fun? Let's do it again. The good spirit does exactly the opposite. It'll prick at your conscience. Do you really need that? Is that something you really should be doing? What would your mom think? Okay. Now, if you're trying to choose good and trying to love the Lord, the evil spirit works extra hard at that. It'll do anything to discourage you and confuse you to get you to move into desolation. God counters that with being gentle and kind. Constellation and desolation. Constellation and desolations are terms that relate to our interior lives. They're not necessarily emotions. It's more of a state of mind, a state of being in relationship to God. Knowing if you're in constellation or desolation is vital to discernment, since our feelings and desires are the starting point for our choices. I was talking earlier, I have been a parishioner of St. Matthew's, a parish in the city, for over 40, 50 years. And just recently, it was closed and merged with other churches. And when I started working on this presentation, I thought about how I've been feeling about the other parish and what was going on. And as I thought about my feelings and what was going on within me of being dissatisfied by this and this, I was in desolation. So one of the things that I did, I prayed about it, because I kept saying the right thing, that God is in control, that whatever God wants, I can handle. But I really wasn't feeling it. So I was moving into desolation sometimes and out of desolation. Well, working on this talk, I really was able to discern how I feel about it, and I feel pretty good now about it. So it's kind of funny how easily you can move from constellation to desolation, and your feelings and desire is the main driver that the evil spirit uses to move you to desolation. When you're in constellation, everything is good, everything is beautiful. Okay? Your movement is towards God. You're feeling positive. You increase your faith and hope. You feel good about yourself and you feel good about others. And most importantly, you believe and you trust in God, that His will is what is important, not yours. When you're in constellation, this is what I was told immediately, prepare for desolation. Okay. And another thing they told me, write down your constellations. And that has been very, very fruitful for me. Because when you're in constellation, that's when you're the closest to God. And sometimes when you are distressed or having a bad day, you could go back to that constellation and feel that connection with God, which kind of like resets you. Okay? So, prepare for desolation. Write the constellation down. All constellations are an opportunity to grow in humility, which means it's a gift. It's a grace. Desolation. Desolation is like, I'm sad. I don't think anybody could love me. It leads you away from God. Negative feelings. That's the reason why I like to focus on your feelings and your desires, because negative feelings moves you into desolation. Being self-centered and focused only on yourself. And may have a negative attitude towards God. Attracted to worldly things. you distrust, you're doubtful, and discouraged. So how do we deal with desolation? You don't make a decision. You stick with the decision you made in constellation. That's very important, because when you're in desolation, you're not seeing things clearly, and you're not the closest to God. So you don't want to make any decisions. Okay? You pray more. Now, I think that's what I did when I went on my walk. I prayed more. I got recentered with God. Remember, you have all the grace that you need. Remember that you have God, and He will provide whatever you need. Remember how much God loves you. Now, there are reasons for why you may move into desolation. It can be caused by somebody else. Like my encounter with the other lady moved me into desolation. Okay? So Ignatius say, you find yourself in desolation. One, you deserve it, that you have done something that you regret, which moved you into desolation. It's a test. The desolation can come upon you by not choice, but how you react is very, very important. When I think about the encounter with the lady, how I reacted with that second conversation in the hall by the vending machine was a test for me. Was I going to push it further to get the payback, or was I going to let it go? And remember, which I think this is just, this always takes me back to the principle and foundation. Everything we have is a gift from God. Okay. Okay. That is my focus on the first week. So if there's any questions, we have a little time. Uh-huh. Well, you grow in humility because you become dependent on God. Constellation is a gift from God, okay, that He freely gives to you. And you grow in humility that you don't turn around and say, oh, okay, this came to me, or I achieved this, rather looking at the fact that God gave that to you. Uh-huh.
I just want to say I really like that point you made about feelings, to focus on the feeling and not the person who maybe ignited it or kind of sparked it. I thought that was good insight.
Yeah, a lot of times, especially when somebody does something to you, you focus on that person, okay? And the question is, how am I perceiving what they saying? Because sometimes if you perceive it differently, that you may have a problem with that person. So whatever they come over and say to you, you perceiving it negatively. So that's the reason why we have to focus on our feelings and our desires. Any other questions? The first week, yes.
Pam, can you talk a little about, you used I heard the statement of don't make decisions when you're in desolation. And
Right. We have day-to-day life, and we make decisions. But one of the things that I think Ignatius really pulled for, Ignatius' spirituality is about your daily living. So it focuses on your day-to-day things. So if you're in desolation, the small decisions, okay. But if you getting ready to make a decision and you're angry, okay, that's not a good way to go and make a decision. Going back to that example, if I had been angry, I could. One of the things I didn't mention is that when I was working, if a person sends me an email and upset me, I would go to their desk and stand face to face and talk to them. Okay, so that's the type of thing that you really don't want to do. Okay, so yes, we have to live daily and we have to make decisions, but we need to keep God in mind when we make all decisions, whether they're big or small. So during our day, we need to keep in mind what God wants you to achieve during that day, not what you want to achieve.
How do you discern whether you can resolve something digitally or if it really requires time or thought, then go deep?
I find that people will write stuff that they won't say to you to your face. Okay? So that, to me, face-to-face personal interaction is always good. I think digital is good. That's the way we live, and it's good. But also gives people the opportunity to be mean because they know they're not going to see you. Okay? So there's two sides of it. But if you're angry, what I say first, deal with the anger and then do whichever communication you want to do. Okay? But you need to deal with what's going on internally with you first before making a decision to go to somebody else. hmm
Are you making the distinction that the feelings are part of, or sparked by our ego, that we're into the small self, and that discernment of desolation and consolation is more of the true self of God, so that we can have feelings that might be of the ego, that say I'm very sensitive, and you look at me in a particular way, and I feel hurt. Well, I can feel hurt at the same time that I can be in consolation, in the sense that I can move to my true self, that, well, when you say it's a test, or that if I think it's a test, then I can choose consolation and think of, well, God's letting me experience this right now, and it might lead me to humility. Is that question, am I thinking the way you're thinking?
I think so. I think so.
Okay.
I think that when we in constellation, you could be angry. Yes, that's true. But it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to hold that anger and let other feelings snowball on it to move you into desolation. See? So, some of the feelings, you can get mad, but it doesn't necessarily have to move you into desolation. Okay? And what I'm saying is, step back and always know where your feelings are coming from. Because the evil one knows you as well as God does. He knows your weaknesses. He knows your pressure points. And he has a pattern of always going to that pressure point or that weakness and start working at you there to move you to desolation. Because his goal is desolation. His goal is separation from God.
I think we need to take a break. Thank you for all your questions.
So this slide is just recovering what we talked about in the last session. Choosing between good and evil, positive and negative feelings, the good spirit constellation, and the evil spirit desolation. Not all choices are between good and evil. Some are among the goods. Our goal in the second week is to know, love, and follow Christ, focusing on how we can stay on the path to God and continue to learn how to recognize God's voice in the midst of the noise. So we're going to talk about now choosing between good and God. You would think that would be very easy, because it's good or God. The evil spirit is still in play, but he's smarter now, okay? Because the evil spirit is going to try to dupe you. I always say, walking and talking just like God, but it's not him. Choosing between good and God, God gives us encouragement and support. My phone sometimes takes me back to different videos that has been sent to me 3, 4, 5 years ago. And this video in particular is my great niece, who's now 8. So she was about 6 months, 7 months when this video was taken. She was learning how to walk, okay? And she had this big old smile on her face as she take the steps, and I could hear her mom in the background, good job, yay! And when I thought about how God encourages us, he's like that mom that's encouraging us, good job. Now the evil spirit, he tries to make us feel dissatisfied and anxious about God. He stings your conscience with thoughts of pride and about attempts to lead a good life. So one of the things, if you are, let's say if I think about doing this presentation right now, and I start thinking about, hey, I'm doing a good job. Look at those slides, okay? I'm turning everything away from God, and that could move me in desolation. Okay? God movements are more delicate and gentle, like a cool breeze on a hot summer day, or like it's a hot summer day and you jump into the pool. That's God. Now the evil spirit is very, very violent, and the best way I can describe it is one day I was stuck in a storm and hail and everything was banging on the car, the wind was banging on the car, and I was scared as can be, saying, oh God, help me. That's how the evil spirit works at you. It gets violent and throw what I always say, everything up against the wall and just see what sticks. Choosing between good and God, God movement is towards positive feelings, okay? Such as joy, peaceful, alive. The evil spirits arouse good feelings to tempt us to focus on your attention or the wrong thing. So the evil spirit will use those good feelings, but his goal is entirely different. His focus is to turn you away. And one of the things with the evil spirit, he don't come, it's not like somebody committing murder. That's a big thing. It's the daily things you do every day that he pricks at you to get you to turn. And then all of a sudden you look up and you say, how did I get here? What happened? That's the evil spirit. That's how he works. God promotes openness and generosity towards others, putting other needs before your own. One of the things, I helped with a dinner once, and the person, it was for to feed the homeless, which is a good thing, and people had donated a lot of food and different things. That was a good thing too. But some wanted to make their plates first and then let the other people in. So you have turned what was a good thing to something that's not so good. So the evil spirit tries to get you off track, to make things selfish motivations. I want it first and place myself before others. A person striving to lead a good life tries to choose good and God. The evil spirit ordinarily appears as an angel of light. So that's what we're talking about. If you're choosing to do everything right, stay with God, the evil spirit can come to you as a light. And once again, what is the purpose? The purpose is to get you to do what he wants you to do and to turn you towards desolation, to move you away from God. I can't stress that enough, that is his ultimate goal, is to move you away from God at all cost. When making decisions becomes when making decisions because discerning person by examining carefully yourself at the beginning, middle, and end of your experience. Okay. I didn't read that right, but okay. What they're talking about, when you make a decision and you're discerning about your decision, you need to examine the beginning, the middle, and the end. Okay? What you're examining at the end is, was it pointing towards God or not? Okay? Now, if you make a decision and you realize, oh, I went way off. How did that happen? Okay? You go back into discernment. You look at and try to find out where it went wrong. Now, if you are a person that journals daily, you may have written down where you made all your different decisions and points. So you may be able to pinpoint when you went the other way, when you start slipping into desolation. The goal is to track when you got moved away from God, so you can go back and make a better decision while you're in discernment and be on guard that you don't trip up like that again. So it's really good. One of the things that I like to do a lot is do an awareness exam daily. Okay? That helps me keep track of where I seen God's presence in me and in others throughout the day. And I sometimes can look back and say, ooh, that really wasn't nice what I did, or if I ignored a person, that really wasn't nice. So that's one of the reasons why the awareness example, and we can keep track of ourselves and our feelings and our desires throughout the day. Because the movement from constellation to desolation it's not a real fast movement. It's a slow daily progress. Okay. Now we'll look at constellations without cause. What is a constellation without cause? There's no action, nothing you does to create this constellation. It is a gift from God. And that's something that the evil spirit cannot do. It cannot do a constellation without cause. But it can use it, right? When you have experienced a constellation without cause, everything is good, and it's that you want to stay there with that constellation. You want to remain there with God. Where there's an afterglow, okay? And that's where the risk comes in with that afterglow. Because the evil spirit at that time can become a false light and move you into desolation. So what they plan is, you can make plans, but you need to discern anything that comes after a constellation without cause to make sure that it is pointing towards God. Choosing between good and God, constellation with cause, can be from good or evil spirits. The first thing that you want to look at, what direction is it pointing you towards? Is it pointing you towards God? The good spirit brings constellation that strengthens us, and the movement is towards God. The evil spirit arouses good feelings, so we are tempted to focus on our attention or the wrong thing. Okay? The movement from God-centered living to evil-centered living can happen so quickly and slowly, we sometimes don't notice until we have gone a long way in the wrong direction. Okay? So the evil spirit can use a constellation. It can create a constellation without cause, because once again, it can come as a false light. The evil spirit will appear as an angel of light, and then he's going to work on your relationship with God. Weaken you until you become in desolation and confused. Okay? That's what the evil spirit, that's his goal. Those 3 points is what he's running around doing all the time. So what you do is, you examine your decisions. You stay in touch with what's going on within you, your feelings and your desires. Okay? And I always say you do awareness examine. A daily practice of awareness examining is something that I strongly recommend, because you can easily catch yourself, if you especially if you done picked up a bad habit. Doing that examine, it'll reveal that habit. Okay. So, this last slide talks about what we covered this morning, the first week and the second week, good versus evil, good versus good, and what I like to call the tools that we need to remember that our feelings, that the evil spirit and the good spirit is in play, how sin affects us in desolation and constellation.